same way. But the Republican leaders in Washington, they had a different calculation. Their basic theory was, you know what? The economy's so bad, we made such a mess of things, that rather than cooperate, we'll be better off just saying no to everything. We'll be better off not even trying to fix the economy. And people will get angry, and they will get frustrated, and maybe 2 years from now, they will have forgotten that we were the ones who caused the mess in the first place. In other words, their basic political strategy has been to count on you having amnesia. They're betting all of you forgot how we got here. Well, Cleveland, it's up to you to let them know we have not forgotten. It's up to you to remember that this election is a choice between the policies that got us into this mess and the policies that are leading us out of this mess. If they win this election, the chair of a Republican campaign committee promised to pursue the exact same agenda as they did before I came into office. Now think about that. We know what that agenda is. It does have the virtue of simplicity. You can describe it very quickly. You basically cut taxes for millionaires and billionaires. You cut rules for special interests. And then you cut middle-class families loose to fend for themselves. If you don't have a job, tough luck. You're on your own. You don't have health care, too bad. You're on your own. If you're a young person who can't afford to go to college, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. You're on your own. This is an idea, this notion of theirs, that turned a record surplus into record deficits. You hear them talking now about how they are going to cut debt and deficits. These are the folks who ran up the deficit. These are the folks that allowed Wall Street to run wild. These are the folks that nearly destroyed our economy. Now, I bring this up not to re-argue the past. I bring it up because I don't want to relive the past. We've been there before. We've tried what they're selling. And we are not going back. We are not going back. Cleveland, imagine the Republicans were driving the economy like a car. And they drove it into the ditch. And this is a very deep, steep ditch. Joe and I and Ted, we had to put on our boots, we had to rappel down. And it's muddy down there, and dusty and hot. Somehow the Republicans, they fled the scene. And now they're up on the street, and they're looking down, and we call them down to help, and they say, no, that's all right. They're sipping Slurpees. They're fanning themselves. They're saying, you're not pushing hard enough. Sometimes they're kicking dirt down into the ditch. Making it a little harder for us. But that's okay. We kept on pushing. We kept on pushing. We kept on pushing. And finally, we got that car back on level ground. It's moving, it's pointing in the right direction. It's a little banged up. It needs to go to the body shop. It needs a tune-up. But it's pointing in the right direction. And just as we're about to go, suddenly we got a tap on our shoulders. We look back, who is it? It's the Republicans. And they're saying we want the keys back. They can ride with us. of a second depression. The economy is growing again. The private sector has created jobs 9 months in a row. And you heard Ted describe his track record here in the state of Ohio. Massively expanding access to education, seeing job growth month after month, building infrastructure to put people back to work. That is Ted's record. That's Lee's record. So at the federal level and the state level, we have been working hard, but look, we understand we've got a long way to go. We've got a lot of work to do. I know there are a lot of people out there who are still hurting. I know there are families, some of them still hanging by a thread. It keeps me up at night, it keeps Joe up at night, it keeps Ted up at night. That's what we're fighting to fix. But you know what? The way to fix it is not to go back to what got us here. It's to move forward with the policies that are getting us out. See, Ted and Lee, Joe and I, we've got a different idea about what the next few years should look like. And it's an idea rooted in our belief about how this country was built. Now, we didn't come from wealth. We didn't come from fame. But our families understood in America, you know, if you work hard, if you're responsible, if you do the right thing, you've got a chance. And our families taught us that government doesn't have all the answers to our problems. Government should be lean and efficient. We can't waste taxpayer dollars, especially at a time as tough as this. But in the words of the first Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, we also believe that government should do for the people what they cannot do better for themselves. We believe in an America that rewards hard work and responsibility and individual initiative, that believes in the free market, but we also believe in a country where we look after one another, where I am my brother's keeper, where I am my sister's keeper. That's the America I know. That's the America Joe knows. That's the America Ted knows. That's the America you know. An America that invests in its future and in its people. An America that's built to compete in the 21st century. Now, we know the jobs and businesses tomorrow will end up in countries that educate their workers best, that build the best infrastructure, that have the strongest commitment to research and technology. I want that nation to be the United States of America. I want that taking place right here in Ohio, right here in Cleveland. That's how we're going to rebuild. There is absolutely no reason that China should have faster railroads, that Singapore should have newer airports. We're the nation that built the Transcontinental Railroad. We're the nation that built the interstate highway system. Right now we are seeing thousands of people working to rebuild our roads and our railways and our runways right here in Ohio and all across the country, trying to start to rebuild an infrastructure for the 21st century, putting people to work, doing the work that America needs done. We see an America where we invest in homegrown innovation and ingenuity, where we export more than we import, where we make it easier to start a business or patent an invention. We don't want to keep giving tax breaks to companies that are shipping jobs overseas. I want companies getting tax breaks that are investing in Cleveland and in Dayton and in Toledo and in Ohio and in the United States of America. And small businesses and American manufacturing, which is coming back, and in clean energy companies. I don't want solar panels and wind turbines built in Asia or Europe. I want them made right here in the U.S. of A. with American workers. skills, the training to compete with any worker in the world. We can't allow other countries to outpace us when it comes to education. We used to be number one in the rate of college graduation rates. We used to be at the top in math and science. Now we're 9th in the proportion of college graduates, 21st and 25th in math and science. That's unacceptable. And so we made historic investments in education, just like Ted has done here in Ohio. We set a goal that by 2020 we're going to be number one again in the proportion of college graduates. Now, remember I said it is a choice, this election. The other side, their main economic idea, this is their main idea, is to provide $700 billion worth of tax cuts to the top 2% of earners. The 2% of wealthiest Americans, an average of $100,000 for millionaires and billionaires. Now, look, I want people to succeed. I think it's wonderful if folks get rich. I want everybody to have a chance to get rich. You do too. This guy's raising his hand. I think that's great. That's part of the American dream. But you know, the way they want to pay for these tax cuts is to cut education by 20% and to borrow the rest from other countries. Let me tell you, do you think China's cutting education spending by 20%? Is Germany cutting education by 20%? They're not, because they're not playing for second place. They're playing for first place. And you know what? The United States of